Jennifer, were you surprised at all when you heard the news? Did you feel that something like this might be coming?
Well, for me, I saw the whole situation with Bryan Kohberger as a dichotomy. I saw him as either a Bundy or BTK Dennis Rader. And I've always said that and kind of gone back and forth. Who would he be like? Would he dig his feet in the sand and say, listen, you're going to have to try me. I'm going to, even if I have to go pro bono, I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to make, this thing spread out in time. Even after he was convicted, how he elongated the time frame for actually being put to death by bartering out, where bodies were and things like that. Or was he going to be like BTK, stand silent like BTK that he did, and surprise us with a plea deal? And that's what he did.
Yeah, I was quite shocked. I thought this was the guy that thought he was the smartest guy in the room. He was eager to get exonerated, was looking forward to trial. So I was a little bit shocked, based on those things. Dr. Vona, were you surprised at all, or did you see this coming?
Okay, so personally, I was shocked, but professionally, Daniel, he does think he's the smartest person in the room. So what better way to do it than to do it? He's now writing the end of the story. He gets to take over now. He gets to think about it. Trials are messy. He gets to take charge again and say, I'm choosing life. So it's almost like he got agency in it again, but in a sick way. Mm. But I feel like that robs the families that were expecting a trial. Maybe they weren't all, though. I don't know.
What about the fact that at this point, from what I've read, he's not having to admit anything as far as a confession. He's not going to have to go and say those things. He doesn't have to say where the knife is. He's just going to plead guilty from what I understand. Do you think that, and I was supposed to start with Dr. Vona, do you think that a lot of people think that BTK got off on his court appearance when he went through everything, got to explain what he did and why he did it, that was possibly the happiest moment of his life, or one of them. Do you see that not being a thing with Bryan Kohberger? Do you think there's maybe he's ashamed?
I don't know that. Did you say shame?
Ashamed?
No, he's definitely not ashamed. He doesn't feel guilt and remorse. However, I don't know that he would take the spotlight in that fashion. However, I put my money on it that he will be doing an interview with somebody like Dr. Ramsland, maybe because he knows her soon, so that he could correct the record, if you will. Hmm. I always wondered if the autism diagnosis bothered him. Like if he felt like they were using that to help him, but almost like he needs to correct the record. Like he has no control right now. So now by doing this, I feel like he's putting himself in a place of control, even though it's a very out of control situation.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think, Jennifer?
I really think that he's just going to save it for book deals, for interview situations. He's going to write the script. He doesn't want to do it in this particular fashion. And that's what he's going to do. I'm very convinced of that. Obviously, he can't make money. But if you look in Idaho, actually, they do not have Son of Sam laws. And that's problematic, but they do have some laws that provide for monies that are made to go to victims. So unfortunately, I wish there were strict Son of Sam laws. There aren't. So I worry about that. But I think I totally agree with you, Dr. Vona, that he's going to script this on his own time with the people he chooses. He's not going to be forced to do anything, even say, I'm not guilty. He'll make his lawyer do that.
I agree.
Do you guys think he'll ever give up the location? We'll start off with Jennifer. Do you think he'll ever give up the location of the knife once he does this book deal?
I have to just say this. I was shocked when I saw the reporting, and I always preface by the fact it's source reporting. And I'm not saying there's a lot of great sources out there. I don't know how good this source is, but it's source reporting that he's not going to have to say anything. I'm shocked by that. If I would have been the prosecutor, I would have said, I need to know where nasty clothes are. I want to know exactly what you did to clean up. I want to know the time frame you had. I want to know exactly how you got that car cleaned and detailed, how many times. I want to know if you threw it all in a plastic bag. I want specifics. I want to know what kind of bag, hefty bag, or these just clear plastic bags. I want to know where the knife is. I want to know it all. And I can't believe that is not part of the deal, even if he doesn't have to say it publicly, that he should have to tell prosecutors.
I agree with that.
I want Jennifer on my team if we have to make questions, because you just rattled off like a million great questions that definitely all of them should have been answered. And I did not know that he might not have to do that. And that's maddening to think of. However, again, I'm not surprised, because now I think he feels like he gets to hold on to the story. So it's almost like by holding on to something, we're still interested. So it's almost like a crusade to still get the truth, but he's the one that holds the key.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, because I mean, my biggest wonder would be that why wouldn't they force him to say that? Because I know, and even if they do, I doubt that's going to happen tomorrow, right? I mean, that's probably going to be during the sentencing phase, or because I'm not familiar with this aspect of how things are done. See, tomorrow he's going to change his plea to guilty, apparently. If that becomes a deal where they say, all right, we want to know everything. We want to know where the bloody clothes are. We want to know where the knife is. We want to know, why you chose them, where you came in contact with them. We want to know everything. When does that happen? Do you know when that happens?
Yeah, I do. After the individual pleads, after that is when you typically go in as an investigator for, in this case, it would be weeks you'd be interviewing. How about any other crimes? How about everything to do with, obviously, this crime? Everything about your motive. Who, if anyone, did you ever talk to in any way about it? All your social media, Papa Roger. You should get every ounce of detail on his whole life and existence. You literally start when they're the first time they have a memory and the first time they thought about killing. You want all of this for people like Dr. Vona so that they can understand and put it in the database. So this, Dan, should start literally the next day.
Interesting.
It should, but I don't know that it will, because I feel like he wants to try to control it as much as he can, which is why I'm shocked that they wouldn't make this a part of the deal.
Well, I think from what I have heard, it was the defense that reached out to the prosecution and asked for this deal. I'm assuming that conversation probably went like, we are prepared to plead guilty if you drop the charges. I mean, if you drop the death penalty and we don't have to say anything. I just think that if that was the case, Bill Thompson needs to learn how to negotiate. I think he folded too quickly. He could have gotten a lot more. If by just taking off the death penalty, he could have gotten all those answers. And which kind of brings me up to what I want to read real quick. Let me pull it up real fast. This is a statement from the Gonzalez family. It says, I'll read it out for everybody. That way, let me make it bigger. All right, so there we go. It says, we have so many people who reach out to offer support, love, and encouragement to console us, offering their own experiences through navigating the justice system. We have also had so many people ask us how they can help. We stand strong that this is not over until the plea is accepted. We will not stop fighting for the life that was stolen unjustly. If you feel called or moved by to try to make a difference, please contact Ada County Courthouse to express your thoughts and feelings. While we are cognizant that some may have wanted the plea, the prosecution relayed to us it was not a majority vote that was the deciding factor in offering this plea. At a bare minimum, please require a full confession, full accountability, location of the murder weapon, confirmation of the defendant acted alone, and the true facts of what happened that night. We deserve to know when the beginning and the end was. I do understand that these answers may not have been given through trial, but that should be the minimum price to pay for his own life. It is not over until it is over. We still have time to fight for a chance to heal. If you feel called, or let the police contact those responsible for the decisions being made. Please learn from some of my own mistakes and lead with kindness and respect. try to separate something that is so unworded with emotion and be logical. We can make a difference today, forever, but only we can act united and remain calm, collected, kind, and respectful. The number available for the Honorable Stephen Hippler, and he lists the number there. I agree with him. At the very least, that it needs to be answered. That needs to be put out there, because I think we're already seeing it where some of these pro Kohberger or pro Berger channels are saying that innocent people plead guilty all the time. It's beyond me. That they offered the plea for a reason. They must have felt that Bryan Kohberger had a strong case. I feel like if he had a strong case, he wouldn't accept it. But
they're also trying to say that the prosecutors are trying to hide the Dateline thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like such a conspiracy. I have a question. Can the judge, I know that the judge could say no to it, but can the judge like put those questions in that you were asking? Like, could the judge say, we could go forward with it, but if you give us, a confession?
Go ahead, Jenna.
Typically, these are agreements that are made between the defense and the prosecution side. And as long as they have agreement, typically it would be very rare for the judge to insert themselves. So the judge would be looking for the prosecutor to insist on it and for the defense, to hold them to the fire. So if this prosecutor is not going to put that in the deal, and we really don't know, none of us have seen the deal. I'm holding out for that's in there, but
I hope. Is it true that he's only like tried a few cases, that most of his cases he's made deals? I was doing research and that's what I've read. And I was like, oh my gosh.
I found 3 murder cases that he tried. If you found more, I only found 3.
Me too. I only found 3.
And never any death penalty on the table for those.
And he's about to retire, so it's not even like he's in his first year.
Yeah.
33 years.
Yeah. And I mean, it should say something. Steve said, I believe it was Steve, maybe it was one of the other family members that posted this out there, that they were contacted on Friday and kind of told of the plea being offered by the defense, that they wanted to see if there was a plea available. From what I understand, Steve and the Gonzalez family obviously said no, that they didn't agree with it. They thought there was going to be a time for decision, and then on Sunday, so over the weekend, the decision was made, and they went ahead and went along with it. I just don't see why they moved that quickly. I think they could have gotten more. I mean, obviously, if he would have said, "I'm going to tell you, I'm going to confess, I'm going to tell you everything, I'm going to tell you where things are," then I probably don't have a problem with it, to be honest with you. If he would have gone through trial and they would have presented everything and he'd been found guilty, the appeal process takes forever. Then there's just a number of courts and hearings that are going to happen between now and the time that he would actually be sentenced, or that to the time that his sentence would be taken, his life would be taken. It'd be a while. And I think there's a lot that they would have to go through. And it's not just the Gonzalez family, it's all 4 of them. And from the sound of it, it looks like Maddie's dad is okay with the plea, and the Chapin's family is okay with the plea. I'm not sure about the Kernodle family. I think it sounds like they're not.
Yeah.
But
either way, then 2 people are getting, like half of them are getting hurt, either, like no matter what the prosecution chooses, if you put it that way.
Yeah. Well, Jen, what do you, if you were the judge, how would you handle this? Would you want to do right by the victims, or this has to be done this way?
It has to be done this way. And as Dr. Vona pointed out, which is a great point, I did not hear what the Mogans, what their stance was. I can tell you that the Kernodle aunt has come out very strongly against this plea, and obviously the Gonzalez family. I didn't know where the Mogans stood. I know where the Chapins stand, and they want this deal. So you can't please them all, as Dr. Vona pointed out. But just as a matter of how the system works, once there's an agreement, this is almost like a stipulation between the 2 parties. So rare for a judge to insert themselves. and their sole opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel for the families. Ben Mogan, Maddie's Mogan's father, came forward, and he said basically that he wants to heal, he wants to move forward. He doesn't want to have to think about this guy anymore that took his daughter's life and things like that. He doesn't want to have to go through the trial, the appeals process, and all that other stuff. Just re-victimizing them multiple times over. But I do agree with what Steve says, that there should be full accountability. He should be able to, should say, this is what happened and this is why. I'm surprised if it's not in there. I can't say for sure 100%. I haven't seen the order myself. But if it's not in there, I think that sucks.
It's a miscarriage of justice. I can't even believe that that's an option.
I can't. Never seen a plea deal that did not call for full details.
Yes.
I've never seen one. Never. I've never seen one in 28 years.
Well, I have a question. So since he got diagnosed with autism, which I don't really think he has, I think he has a personality disorders, but in my opinion, but with the autism thing, could he say, like, if he doesn't say what he did, like, don't they have to prove it? Can I say I did it? Like, don't you have to prove like something?
Yeah. So
you know what I mean? Like, don't you have to like say like I did this, like, so you know that it was really me and I'm not just saying it?
So what happens, from what I understand now, is that the state is going to present a case. They're going to present the case to the judge, and then he's going to accept the plea. But I don't think that presentation of the case is going to be done tomorrow either. I think that's going to be done at the end of July, at the end of the month. And so from what the rumblings I'm hearing. But yeah, I think that's the next process. And I think maybe that's why they're not making him confess in front of everybody, or even to the prosecution behind closed doors, is maybe because there is this presentation of the case. But I think you're absolutely right. Anybody can say that they did it and just plead guilty. I think you'd have to say something, something that only the killer would know.
So Dan, in my experience with this, the prosecution is going to lay out their case tomorrow. Okay. They're going to lay out what happened, what they can prove, how they can prove it. The judge, remember, has already seen most of a lot of the information via motions throughout this whole process. But that will have essentially we're going to see it. I mean, we're going to see them say he did XYZ, and then we're going to hear him say he did XYZ. But I totally get your point, Dr. Vona, because the point is the concern of a false confession. Mm-hmm. The judges will ask those questions oftentimes about, what proof do you have? But I think this case, he's seen so much, hundreds of pages of evidence.
I agree with that. I also wonder, does anybody wonder, I have two things. One, do you think that the DoorDash thing had anything to do, like, as far as pushing them to be like, do you think that they thought that she wouldn't be seen by the public as credible? Maybe. I think she's credible, but I'm just saying, like, did they think that was a possibility? Could that have played into it? And two, I'm like, why did he do it now and not in like 3 weeks or 4 weeks? And I'm like, it's 4th of July weekend. Everybody would be talking about it. Could that be it too? Like, not it, but like, could that have something, like, play a role?
I think they had this discussion beforehand, Ann Taylor and Bryan Kohberger. And I think that in the end, the reason why they asked for the plea deal is because they've lost everything except for the change of venue. At this point. They've lost the IGG, they lost the Franks motion, they lost the alternate suspects, they lost the continuance, they've lost absolutely everything. And I think that at this point, there's going to be some things that need to be done. There's witnesses from out of state that need to be coordinated and things of that nature, things that need to go out. And I think at this point, they saw the horizon, the sun coming over the horizon, and then they had to face the truth. And it was either they go to trial with everything being allowed in, absolutely everything in there, that even with the small amount of information that we know, makes it look very strong and compelling that he did it. I can only imagine with all the other evidence that they have against him, that it would probably be even stronger of a case. And so Yeah, I think that it was probably because they lost everything. The only thing that they won was a change of venue, and I think if they could go back, they probably wouldn't do that.
I agree with you there.
There, Dr. Vona, too, to your point, I think he wants to own this someday. He really, I mean, you let us know from a psychological standpoint, he wants to own this. He doesn't want to be painted as, disabled mentally, that he, didn't do this. And I'm not saying people with autism are disabled mentally. I am just saying that that's what they were trying to say, right? They were trying to say he was. And he'd never been diagnosed before. I mean, this clearly was to get him out if he was convicted of the death penalty, right? Yeah. So I think, like you said, he wants to take control. And he's like, I don't want all of these people coming out and saying I'm, not sound.
It's narcissistic injury, right? So he's like, and I almost feel like that's what's like eating at him. He's not remorseful. He doesn't feel bad. He's not even afraid of being put to death. For him, it's more about thinking that he had like the final word, or that he wrote the end of his story, which then goes to control and power type thing, or control. At least I feel like he has a lack of identity, and now he found an identity in this. And people were saying like, now he can do his studies. And I'm like, no. He wants to be studied now. Like now he would want people to be like he's the new BTK, like you were saying, like study me and I'll be alive for the next 60 years and people can come and rack my brain. And after Ramsland's gone, the next people will come. And I think that he's going to do just that. I think he's going to like bit by bit us type thing, not give everything at once, but be like little pieces so that we keep going back.
So do you think that the plea deal was him thinking, all right, I've lost this, the evidence is strong, I'm not going to be able to correct the narrative until the appeals are done, and that's going to be decades maybe?
Yeah, not just that, but like he probably saw all the evidence against him and was like, this is all going to come out about me. And that's like, he really would have no control in that moment in court, right? Like he has to just sit there. So this gives him a little bit of that power back to where he can rewrite the narrative or write the narrative the way he wants it to be seen, in my opinion.
I wanted to ask you guys really quick on this afraid. In my opinion, and this is based on others that have committed similar type crimes, he doesn't want to die.
No. He does feel fear. He feels fear.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to.
I'm glad you said that. No. He definitely, he doesn't feel guilt and remorse probably, but he feels fear. But my thing is that it's not necessarily like a morality thing, or it's probably not even the death penalty at this point that's getting him, even though he fears that. It's probably more of him correcting the record. I don't know if he gets to know that all these people in YouTube are talking about him. And if so, what are they saying? There's that new guy that came out and said that he knew him from childhood, and here they're like 11 years apart. And the guy's like, he could have never done it. He's not strong enough. Like, who knows how much he's being told this? This is all like narcissistic injury over and over and over.
Yeah, I see everybody's point. I mean, there's going to be some information that was going to be coming out. They were going to try to allude that this guy was sexually motivated. It was a sexually motivated crime. I strongly believe that. I know that, Jennifer, that's what you believe as well, that this was sexually motivated. I think it was multifaceted. There was a lot of things that were going on with him. I think he was searching for himself, and I think he was trying to feel some emotions that maybe perhaps he was getting off of when he was talking to some of these people that were reaching out to him that committed violent crimes on his Reddit survey. So all that does make a ton of sense. Kind of going back to what's next. So tomorrow's the sentencing. Tomorrow, the prosecution possibly could lay out their case.
The plea.
I mean, the plea. I'm sorry. Yeah, the plea is tomorrow. The sentencing comes after the fact. Why is there such a big gap if there's a plea deal already in place?
There's a huge gap because typically in these plea deals, there are things that he is supposed to be doing. Secondly, and this is the biggest one, there needs to be time for these victims to be able to write their impact statements. And that needs to be afforded to them so that they can, make their case to the judge. Even though, as you said, it's in the deal, right? It's life without the possibility of parole and no appeals. But nevertheless, they want to give them time to prepare those.
Close says that's the problem with full allocation is no way of guaranteeing the truth.
It is a good point. That is a good point, right? Think about Chris Watts, how many times he's changed the story about what happened. So in that case, like when he did it with the author, that could have been, to almost like to placate to her, and then you talk to somebody else and it's like to placate to them, or again, just keeping himself in the story by changing it up so that everybody talks about it. Excuse me. But I think it's something where like we're going to see like that.
Yeah. Natalie James comes in. Thank you so much, Natalie, with $49.99. So it does seem logical that BK would have to say anything after he pleads to guilt and the court accepts it. If the families were going to get details they want, I believe the letter about the plea would have afforded them that comfort. I agree.
That sucks.
Jen, I'll ask you this. When does the evidence become unsealed and people can research this?
You know what? Different things that are sealed, we might never see, ever.
That's been.
I think, the things that have been marked out, in other words, like as an example, and you can understand why, the third party culprit motion. That should remain sealed, because if those names get out and whatever evidence they had that Judge Hippler said was nonsense, can you imagine what social media and what people will do to those people?
Look at what they did to hoodie to Jack, right? The hoodie guy.
Yeah.
Both the Jacks.
Yeah, both of them. You're right.
So a lot will just remain untouchable.
So I'm thinking that maybe perhaps, and I've put this out there, I think the first thing that, if anything gets unsealed, the first thing that's going to get unsealed is the traffic stop where Bryan Kohberger is arguing with the officer, and he has to give him this phone number. I'm excited to see that one. I want to see that one because that night he was allegedly within 100 meters for a significant amount of time to the victim's residence. I want to see what's inside that car. Does he have a notebook? Does he have a tablet or writing utensils and those things? But I have no idea when those things will be released to the public. So there's an Amazon Prime movie coming out, or docuseries coming out, that I think is going to be featuring with the Chapins and Hunter and his girlfriend, the female that was with him when they came across when they called 911 the next morning. I guess we're going to find out some more information there. I guess there's no worry about violating any gag order now. Do you think that we're going to find out more stuff, though? Do you think that things are going to break? We're going to get any information at all?
I think we will. And I think a lot of people are we've already seen it, right? They're going to start coming out of the woodwork. I mean, you can expect a huge deal with Dylan Mortensen that somebody's going to make. Bethany Funk. You're going to see this all over the place, in my view, and it's going to be their truth and what they want to say. But unfortunately, will we get the phone records to back what they say, right? Will there be corroboration? I think they'll have a lot of freedom to say whatever they want and portray their truth.
God, talk about conspiracy theories. If they start telling their stories and they don't release the things to back it up, people are going to make all kinds of stories. That's horrible if they don't.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I want them to make him forced to say what he did, or at least disclose where the murder weapon is, something that only the person that committed this crime would know. BK needs to tell where the knife is as a part of the deal. That's because his supporters still think he's innocent. It's ridiculous. 100% C minor op. 100%. Let's see.
I don't think he would ever tell where it's at, because I feel like by telling where it's at, he gives up his last chess piece type thing. I feel like he would want to hold on to something like that, because that's something that he knows and that he could fantasize about.
But you know what I would see him doing?
Yeah, tell me.
Say, I threw it in the river. I did this with it where it can never be found. and then it's really not true. And he
yes, what they were just saying, right? That we don't know if it's going to be the truth, even if he does tell us something, right?
Yeah. You guys, I am so sorry. It is my son's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, so we are headed to a big dinner. Dan, thank you so much for having me. And Dr. Vona, I need to have you on my show.
I would love to. Dan can give you my information.
All right, definitely.
Dan, I appreciate it. It was great to meet you.
Great to meet y'all. All the best.
I'll see ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Jen. That's Jenn Coffindaffer. Make sure you guys go subscribe and follow her. Her information is in the description. So Kel asks, how much did his dad know, asking if anyone else was arrested? And I was going to get into this. So one of the things that I have known for some time now is that, well, in Howard Bloom's book, he wrote that Bryan Kohberger's father flew directly from from Philadelphia to Seattle, and then from Seattle to Pullman, which that's not 100% accurate. There's a night flight. It's super inexpensive compared to the other days that flies into Pullman. But from what I understand is it was delayed and he had to fly into Spokane the next day. Now, him traveling across country isn't, after these murders and stuff, it's suspicious. But Bryan Kohberger had told his attorney, LeBar, the court-appointed attorney in Pennsylvania, that trip had been planned for some time. Now, I've come to find out, I don't have the proof about it yet. I'm hoping to get that in, but I've come to find out that ticket purchase actually didn't occur until after December 7th. So, meaning that the purchase of the plane ticket happened when the Bolo came out. Now, one of the other things that I have learned was that apparently, and so JLR had reported this a while back, that one of Bryan Kohberger's sisters had called the FBI while Bryan Kohberger's father was en route to Pullman to pick up his son on that Christmas break. What I have heard is that's true. And the speculation behind it, because there's speculation behind it, but the speculation behind it is that tip went in and then they decided to go fly out and get him, meaning somebody got worried, probably his mom, if this is true. So I say that to say, if all that information comes out that maybe perhaps his father knew, there was that question, right? Did anybody else get arrested? His father had just driven with him. If we find out that, we already know that he called his father that morning at 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock in Idaho. I think it's like 9 o'clock on the East Coast. He called his parents that morning. He spoke with his dad multiple times that day on November 13th for extended period of time. Then he's flying across country and going back with him after the Bolo comes out. So to that question, did anybody else get arrested? Does that hold any weight to you, Mr. Vona? Mr. Vona, Dr. Vona, does that hold any more weight to you as far as, do you think Bryan Kohberger
I think Bryan, I think he said that because of other, how we'll see that he looks at or he takes quotes from other movies and stuff. I have a feeling that that's probably something another serial killer asked. I think it is Ed Gein, maybe might have asked. So I think that could have been about that. The other thing I will say, and I'm just playing devil's advocate, what if I know that the parents don't have a lot of money? A lot of times, around here especially, and I'm only an hour and a half away from him, so I can't imagine that it's much different where he's at. But people always be like, wait until the last minute, you'll get deals on people that cancel. Could it just be that they had it planned and the dad was waiting or maybe they didn't have the money until last minute? I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. How will we find that out unless, I guess, they tell us that? Right.
So that's why there's the speculation aspect. The speculation aspect is that the timing in which this went down, it happened after December 7th, after the Bolo of his vehicle. So, it's a situation where we have to connect the dots. Is it proof beyond reasonable doubt that Bryan Kohberger's family knew? I mean, if we can determine that the sister did in fact call the FBI and report something beforehand, before that flight went out, I think it's
I agree with that, actually. I think I thought that when she called, they were like back home and it was like over the break. So if she called before he even came home, that's a big red flag. I mean, that at least means that she put the, connected the dots and was like, wait, my brother could possibly be responsible for something like this. So I'm not sure, this is speculation, but it wouldn't be crazy to think that she had the conversation with her mom and her sister and even her dad about what do they think. And I bet you we find out that he was called his mommy at 6 a.m.
I wouldn't be surprised. I know that Dateline mentioned that there was a conversation with his father for an extended period of time. I know that they put in the chat that Brian Enton had posted something referencing Bryan Kohberger's family wanting to maintain privacy and things of that nature. Don't want to talk. They do. And again, I don't know if they know, right? They may have just been suspicious, may have gotten scared and been like, oh my God.
That's what I think. I think they were just suspicious and they were putting 2 and 2 together. The thing with the cell phone before, when Jenn was saying about how people like me will ask him questions and stuff, I also thought about, we have his TAPA talks and everything, right? And that Cura thing. So we have all of this material that he's already told us about to start. Like he was talking at 14 years old about feeling detached and not feeling anything for his family at all. He said he felt completely detached from them. They were all hugging and stuff. It was their last holiday there. I think that was the year that they filed for bankruptcy. I think that had a huge effect on him. And I don't know. I think we're going to see a really troubled past, that so to where his family wasn't like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sinbad comes in with $5 saying Joseph DeAngelo accepted a plea deal to avoid the death penalty and was not required to provide any personal or detailed accounts of his crimes.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I think so too. A Midwest mod friend of the show gives a Drunk Turkey Show membership. Thank you, Midwest. GSU comes in with their membership for 1 month, streaming the hearing live tomorrow. Yes, I will be. What
time is it at?
It's going to be at 11 o'clock Boise time. That's noon my time. So that'll be 1.
Yeah. Perfect timing. Cause I finally finished my summer class. So I like to pretend that I'm 18 and sleep in a little bit. So that just works out perfectly for me.
There you go. Well, I'll be going live. If you want to join, we can do it.
I will definitely. You'll see me around. I'll be there. And I could join too if you want. Well, I'm dying to see what's going to happen and what we're going to find out.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I'll be streaming
some answers.
Yes, I hope so as well.
Even if the prosecution lays out the case and he has to agree to it, even if he's not the one that says it, I feel like that might but if he's just able to say, I'm guilty and that's it, that to me is mind blowing because anybody could say that. And the pro-burgers are going to go crazy over that.
The pro-burgers are definitely going to go crazy over that. The difference is I think that the state is going to present a case that says that he is guilty. And
that's what I'm hoping.
They're going to present the case, but at the same time, the pro-burgers are going to say, oh, this was planted, this was manipulated, that's AI. What else did they say about me? I have a time machine. They'll probably say something like that. I mean, there's so many things that they'll say. I'm
the lady now. It's you and the lady. So who's that lady he has on? I'm like, okay, that's me. I'm proud of it. I don't care. I'll be the lady. Actually, I said I'm Dr. Bitch. Have a seat. No, I'm just joking.
I've said some pretty bad things. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm just joking. You taught me that it's not even worth bothering to get upset about, and you're so right.
That's true. That is true. Squeaky wheels.
Yes.
Challenge Daily comes in with their membership for 28 months. Wow, over 2 years. Thank you.
Wow, that's amazing.
This sucks for the families. I agree. Christy 10 comes in with $9.99. His dad was way too relaxed when they got pulled over. Brian was freaking inside while dad was chatting and giving more details than Brian.
You could see it on his face. He gives his dad this look like, shut up. But he can't, his dad's not looking at him. I agree with that.
But don't you think that his father, once he hears about this guy that's, Bryan Kohberger, his life has just gotten taken by SWAT. He had threatened his roommates. Don't you think that could have given his father some sort of false sense of security, thinking that, oh, that's the guy that committed this crime, not my son? Maybe that's why he was relaxed.
I 1,000% do. I don't feel like they had a relationship. I don't feel like he has relationships with anyone like that. So I feel like he doesn't have that relationship with his dad where he could just be like, Dad, let me tell you something. Like, don't tell no one. So I feel like if anything, by telling the dad that story, or however the dad found it out, if it was on the news, whatever, that absolutely gave him a false sense of security. Like, oh, maybe it wasn't my son. I wouldn't even be surprised if he didn't call home and say, you know what, you guys, maybe we're wrong. Like, there's another guy out here, da, da, da. Like, and again, we would want to do that. That's bias. Who wants to believe that their child is capable of something like this?
Yeah, I was going to say, he's probably looking for things to settle his mind. You know, he probably looked in the car. Was like, man, there's no blood in here. You know?
Yeah, and think about it, right? If one of our kids did something horrible, I would assume that you would also feel like, where did I go wrong? Like, or what didn't I see? So I'm sure there's a ton of questions. So anything that's going to make him feel like maybe it wasn't him, he's probably going to latch onto. I think anybody would.
Yeah. Yeah. I strongly see that as well, you know, and, but I think Bryan Kohberger saw it differently. You know, for him to ask if anybody else got arrested, I agree with you that is something else that another serial killer said, or at least two. But I think that there was some inkling in his mind thinking that maybe they thought that him leaving from Pennsylvania or from Moscow back to Pennsylvania his dad was helping him get away, you know, from the area of some sort.
I don't think it had anything to do with his dad. Let me be honest, Daniel. I don't think he has that emotion for his dad to where he even felt that. Like, you might feel guilt for your dad in that situation, but I think that he's all about him. And if anything, he could have just been planning a doubt or thinking that he's planning doubt, because you have to remember, he thinks he's smarter than all of us. So he could have thought that by saying that, they're going to be like, ooh, he said, did anybody else? So we should be looking for, and then the more they look for somebody else, the less they look at him.
Maybe, but
I think it's good that we don't agree on every little thing, right? That wouldn't be genuine. So I think that it's okay that you
No, I agree. But what I'm saying is, like, if he was going down that mindset, doesn't that kind of say that he's kind of admitting to it to a certain extent?
No, because he doesn't know what they have. And if you remember, Papa Roger said that leads me to believe that they found the knife sheath. So then he might have been thinking in his head, what's on that knife sheath? Because again, he does feel fear, like, or let's assume that he has a personality disorder. Like, I think he does. He does feel fear. He just doesn't feel guilt and remorse. But the fear isn't coming from a place of like, oh my God, I did something so terrible. It's more like, oh my God, I don't want to get caught for what I did. Did I leave any DNA on that knife sheath? Like, da, da, da. So maybe he was thinking by saying, like, did anybody else get arrested for this? That he would plant doubt into the investigators' minds, even though they saw right through it.
That's maybe. Because he was very eager that it wasn't him, or claiming that it wasn't him. He even talked to the officers to try to convince him to go have coffee. So he's kind of delusional. You know what I mean? He's a little delusional.
Or he just thinks that he's smarter than everybody, and that saying something like that will plant, like, that the cop's going to go back later and be like, you guys, he asked me to go out for coffee. Like, I don't think someone like that, like, I really think that he thought that he could get over on people like that. And I just think they saw through it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
They're probably like, this guy just asked me to go get coffee. Like, what's wrong with him? Instead of him thinking like, oh, you guys, he just asked me to go for coffee. He's probably a good guy. Like, so I just think that he just thought that he was smarter than everybody else, and he wasn't.
Wiggin comes in with a good point. Do you think he asked if anybody else was arrested because he saw his parents in handcuffs with zip ties?
That would mean that he would feel bad for his parents. And again, I think he was in survival mode. I think it was more about him. I could be wrong. This is just my opinion, but I think it was more self-centered than anything else.
Some folks are asking.
He felt that his parents would never believe that it's him. So to him, it would be like an injustice, like, even though it's not real, but he might be trying to present that, like, this is so unjust. Look at my parents in zip ties. But that would be because he thinks that would bother someone else, not necessarily himself. So a lot of times with like someone with antisocial personality or psychopathy that people would say, one of the things that they do is they learn, just like somebody with autism can mask situations, they learn how to act in certain situations. So they know not to laugh at a funeral or not to, talk loud at a wedding. So, and they learn that over, time. So how much of this is him just intellectualizing, and this is more like a science to him, than him just feeling and saying what he feels in the moment. That's less likely.
Yeah. He's taking this plea, and I'm not familiar with the prison system. I've never was a prison guard. My only experience is just transporting people there. That's it. After I arrested them. But from my understanding, I think there's a difference between how you're treated on death row and when you're just serving a life sentence. I think he's going to be in general population because of that. Unlike in death row, where he would be basically in solitary confinement. Now, he might be in a maximum security prison where they, based on the severity of his charge, they might have him in a situation that's similar, based on the fact that he's a high-profile person that could play a role into him not being in general population. But I think overall he will be. How do you think he's going to be able to handle? Let's just go with if he's in solitary confinement, and we'll start off that, then we'll go into general population. How does a person like him handle solitary confinement?
So I think about Stephen Stearns too. I know you don't follow that case totally, but even with someone like him, they don't really need interpersonal relationships. So it's less of a punishment than it would be for me, who needs other people to talk to, or I'd go crazy type thing. So that would be a huge punishment for me, to cut me off from society or just from other people. To him, I don't think that he ever really needed other people to where it's that much of a punishment. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay. But I mean, he's in there by himself. He's a loner, and he's been by himself most of his life. He's been
by himself most of his life. He's already has like the skills to, work with that.
Mm-hmm.
He might.
But he's also been the kind of guy that has tried to show his smartness, whatever, like with the way he answers questions, the way he's on Quora, the way he's been perceived by some of the students that he taught. It sounds like he got off on being smarter than other people.
So why
is
would
he going to be able to do that in prison?
Why would he want to associate with the rest of the general population? He's better than everybody else. And again, this isn't real. I'm saying, could this be what he's thinking? Like, by being in, by himself, it's almost like he's getting special treatment. He's better than everybody else. So of course I'm going to be getting special treatment and not be put with everybody else. He's different. I bet you he gets a vegan diet. How maddening would that be?
Do you think he gets a vegan diet if he's in general population?
I think so. I don't know why. I just feel like he will. Does anybody know any different? I hope there's a law that says that you can't and that he has to learn how to eat, with everybody else. But I have a feeling that would be like cruel or whatever in the law, in the eyes of the law. I don't know. So
I heard a story about Bryan Kohberger.
Tell me.
That he did you notice that he looked like he lost some weight at a certain point? Like he looked like he was getting healthier and like heavier, and then he lost some weight.
Absolutely.
I heard he wasn't eating because they were delivering his tray, and they're like, "Hey, you get the special sauce and the special meat."
That's funny.
And he decided he was like, "What does that mean?"
So he probably buys all of his food.
No,
the kiosk style.
From what I just heard when they dropped off this food, that they kind of alluded to him.
Well, they should.
Somebody did something to it.
Not for nothing, but they should. I feel like he needs to be punished in some way.
Yeah. And he stopped eating for a while. Like there's so much little things like that I know about that I've heard through this entire thing. But yeah, I think they called it the special sauce or the special meat, something like that. They were like, hey, something about like something to the effect, because I heard this so long ago, something to the effect that they told him, hey, we hear you like this special meat or something like that when they were giving him his food. And
that would be something, right?
Yeah.
He would deserve that.
Yeah. And so he chose not to eat for a while, apparently. And then that's why he looks kind of thin, in my opinion.
Let's see what he looks like tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm so anxious about tomorrow for some reason.
Do you think he's going to be wearing an orange jumpsuit? Do you
I was just going to ask you that. I don't know. Because he would be pleading guilty, right? So technically, I mean, unless he comes in the last time as not guilty until he pleads guilty. But I don't know if that's like a law question, if that's different in every state. I don't know how that works.
Yeah. I don't know how it works either. I'm thinking now back on BTK, he wasn't wearing a suit.
No.
I mean, he was wearing a suit. He wasn't in orange when he was giving his.
Well, you know what? Maybe you're right then. Maybe it will be in a suit because if before he gets sentenced, so maybe at sentencing, he might be in an orange jumpsuit. We'll probably see him in the suit tomorrow.
See, I don't know anything about this part. Stephanie says, as someone who has worked a lot in that environment, he will not be in general population. They'll probably send him to another state. You think that, and I wonder if this would be part of the deal, that he gets to be in Pennsylvania.
Oh my gosh, if he's in Pennsylvania, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think you can you can't just say that you want to go to Pennsylvania, can you?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen it in movies.
That's funny.
I can't say
I don't know because I think Chris Watts wanted to go back to Connecticut or North Carolina or something, and they didn't. He's not there, I don't think. So I don't know, but maybe that differs state to state. I'll look that up though and find out.
I have no idea. I have zero idea. I saw that one movie, Law Abiding Citizen, and he was able to do a lot of weird stuff.
Well, what about with the brothers, the Menendez brothers? Remember they thought they were going to leave together and they split them up at the end. And so I know that they definitely have the right to put you because you no longer have rights once you're convicted. Right. So I know that they have the right to put you wherever they want, but I don't know if you can request. Maybe you could request being closer to home. Maybe that's where autism diagnosis helps them in some way. He could say he has to be closer. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but I will look that up and find out.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll keep him there or they'll move him. Midwest comes in saying, great panel and great show. Thank you, Midwest. We appreciate it.
You're a great mod.
Yes. My mods are the best, guys.
They really are.
I have to. I'm gonna.
I call Sirius Black Prozac. She's like human Prozac.
Why?
She's just so kind and she gives the best compliments, or she'll be like, you got this, you go. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're like human Prozac. She just makes you feel good when she's in chat. Yeah.
Katie's family have put up a link on their Facebook page to write the injustice directly to the court.
They did say if you're mad or whatever to call the county. I was like, that was pretty smart.
I agree. Somebody had asked me if I thought that would make a difference. I don't know. I don't think so.
No, because let me tell you why. Because when that whole thing happened when they tore the house down, at the time, my students and other people online, everybody was talking about the house and and people were trying to get in touch with the communication director and the president, and he wasn't writing them back. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm in academia. I have multiple EDU accounts, my email. So he would know that I'm in academia if I email him. So I emailed him. I'll send you the email. And they called me back. And I have that on tape too. And there's a 6-minute conversation with the communication director. And the president literally wrote something for her to tell me. So I feel like they control the narrative in some way. So how much of that are we going to see play out too? I forget what my original thing was. There was something, I don't know, Daniel, it all came together in some part. Hopefully it made sense to others.
Yeah, it did. And, you bring up the house being torn down, the families, and there was a petition signed for that. And in the end,
that's what it was. Yes, the petition. And it didn't make a difference. That's what the point was. Thank you. Yeah,
it didn't make a difference there. But, you got to try. You can't just not try. You know what I'm saying? And, at the very least, if you can get confirmation on things, you can get the weapon, you can get, even if it's just at the location of where the weapon is at. That is something that only the killer would know.
Yeah, but this is my thing. Will that really do anything for, moving, for grieving? If I had to get something, I would want to know, why did you choose my daughter and her friends type thing? And, where did this come from? Like he said, where did the beginning and the end, where did that come in at? What Steve said or whoever wrote, so I agree with that. I would have those types of questions. To me, getting the weapon, yeah, it proves that it's him, but don't we already, most people already think, not most people, but most people in this situation already think that it's him.
A lot of people do, but there is a large following that think that there's
I guess I mean the people, the families and stuff.
Right. Yeah. No, the families, everybody that's involved in the case, that's seen any amount of the evidence, know that he did it. I mean, there's no doubt in anybody's mind
So then getting the knife would just verify that, and that really doesn't do anything more for me. So I would rather have answers to something that would be eating me alive at night.
Right. But I mean, I think that's something that you can't deny. And so, like, for instance, there are a lot of people that are denying everything. There's some people that are even saying that it's not signed yet. This is some sort of ploy. That way he can do something. I don't know.
And they're making them do it, and they're forcing them. Oh, now there's even people, like a lot of pro-burgers are against Ann now, where Ann was like the best lawyer ever. Now they're like, this is, what's it called? When you don't have the right counsel.
Ineffective counsel.
Yes, they're like, this is ineffective counsel, da da da, and like Ann's pushing this on him, and why is she doing this? And I'm like, wow, they turned on Ann quick.
Well, I mean, Ann Taylor, there are some things that I don't agree with what she did. She went out there and said he's an innocent man and all these other things, especially when she was in judge's courtroom. The stall tactics I didn't like, but in the end, a lot of what she was doing and saying and her questioning and things it was just her job. You know what I mean? But like I said, there's some things I didn't like that she had said, but she was given a pretty crappy hand. I mean, look at who her client is. The guy took his phone with him. I mean, well, let's just break it all down real quick. Mm-hmm. He went out at a super specific weird hour of the night by himself, and admittedly so, in his own car with nobody else there. Nobody else borrowed his car. It was him and himself in the car. What are the likelihood? I mean, what are the chances that if you go out on a night drive, that a serial killer is going to strike while you're out and about? I mean, the likelihood is probably small, right? Nope. Now you amplify that with, all right, what are the likelihood that serial killer that struck? One, he struck during the time that your phone, you turn it off, right? And it's during that time that your phone is off is when this killer is committing this crime. And then what are those chances of, this person being another person? Do they go higher or lower when you find out that person also drives a very similar car down to the front license plate?
One license plate.
And then you have to find out also that person also contains Bryan Kohberger's DNA on his person. So what are the chances of all those things happening? I mean, the likelihood is astronomical. I mean, and then you got to throw in the fact that he purchased the Amazon or the K-Bar knife off of Amazon, the balaclava mask, the backpack, all those things. You then implement those. The purchase of the Dickies jumpsuit that was left, the tag and the receipt was left at his apartment complex. You start to piece together everything, and it becomes a pretty obvious situation of who committed this crime. And
so then why are there so many people, I guess, that don't believe that it can only go back to they're projecting themselves onto the situation. That's the only thing I could think of, because you're right. There's it's literally I don't understand how people don't see it. I don't know.
Well, people focus in on the extraordinary, right? So for instance, anytime I've heard something, it's always, there's 99.9% of the time one thing happens, but they focus in on that 0.1% of the time something strange happens. Like, for instance, that one dude who got God, I can't think of his name, but he was a drunk. He ended up getting picked up by the paramedics. Paramedic ended up going to a murder scene later, and somehow that drunken guy's DNA ends up under the fingernails of the murder victim. They focus in on that one time. How many other times have you found DNA under the victim's fingernails? Then there's defensive wounds that it doesn't belong to the person. You know what I mean? It's a 1 in a million chances, but every now and then those million chances happen.
I feel like years ago when we didn't have DNA and everything like that, and even fingerprints, people had to, it's not all doubt. It's reasonable doubt, right? So it's you're not everything's going to be 100%. Right.
Well, that's one of the things that they're doing that they were trying to do in the Bryan Kohberger trial. So what they had a camera on Ridgewood Way, and then a camera on the Linda Lane, and then another camera on King Road. Now, this is all within about 3 to 4 block span. And so you have the white vehicle without the front license plate that they have identified is between 2014 and 2016 Elantra, passed by. and then head towards the direction of the victim's house. And then at the exact time that you would have expected it to have passed by Linda Lane going in that same direction, it does. But there's no continual footage there. And there's one block in between there that Bryan Kohberger could have turned off and the real killer could have turned on. But again, what are the chances? You have to go back to Bryan Kohberger's phone being off and the likelihood of somebody else driving at that exact time. Now, at the exact moment that he turns off, the other guy turns on. Now you have to add that into the equation. And that just makes the it's just stupid.
Let me tell you, I'm a statistics teacher. The probability is very slim. So I also I use data for decision making, and the data in this case is like so clear to me.
Yeah.
And to you and to a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people like to focus in on the conspiracy. They like to
because it's something, I feel like then that's a reflection of them. And what does that say about them? So I feel like what that says about them is that at some point of their life, they felt like the underdog. So they feel the need to go out on a limb. And then when they realize that it's not right, double down instead of being like, oh, my bad, or like my theory has evolved, or you think they would do that, but they're not. I can't believe they're doubling down on this. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
It's crazy to me.
It is, but I mean, at the end of the day, they focus in on the conspiracy. And
well, I was going to say, it scares me because if you listen, they're saying things like, we can't take this from our government and stuff. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, do you think that these creators that do this, do you think they really believe it? Or do you think that they know and they're just pushing that? Like, what? I don't know.
You know, at one point I thought that they knew, but at this point, I think it's because they get championed by the pro-burgers that they start to believe their own stuff. You know what I mean?
So the same thing with the bias with the dad, right? So the dad's going to find things to make it, you know, if he hears something that it could have been somebody else, or it could have been this Marine type person because it is a K-bar, like, so that would be the same reason that he would want to grab onto all those things as it not being his son. That same thing would be true there. So that is true.
Yeah. Sam asked about Kohberger's experience in general pop. So if he does get into general population, how do you think somebody who has the potential personality disorders that he has, how is handling general population for somebody like that?
I would say that a lot of the people in this, he would go in like like he's not going to be going somewhere where people just did something small. So it's going to be other people that are like him. So I think if anything, he's going to like meet a bunch of Bryan Kohbergers, if you will. So I think he's not going to be with people that aren't like him. If anything, these are going to be like-minded individuals. They're probably going to tell him about their crimes. He could tell them about theirs. Like, so I feel like, I think a lot of people are thinking that he's going to, you know, what was his name? The one that got killed in prison, Jeffrey Dahmer. I think people are thinking that something like that's going to happen. And I don't know that's going to happen type thing. I think if anything, I hope he doesn't get like praised or idolized in any way, because that would just be shitty.
Yeah, no, I agree. Close as the defense approach the state confirmed. That's what I understand as well. You know, going back to Bryan Kohberger finding other Bryan Kohbergers and to these pro-burgers, I think you're right, because what I've noticed with some of these creators and some of these folks that believe in the conspiracy, or the persons that have been accused of crimes, is they see themselves in them. They'll often say, this could be anybody, this could be us, this could be you or me. They often don't say that Steve could be them, the victim's family members could be them. They don't put themselves in the shoes of the victim or the victim's family members. They put themselves in the shoes of the criminal. It's weird.
That is weird.
You know,
there's a name, hyperstophilia, is for the women that like wind up writing them and like falling in love with them. But there's a whole group of people that aren't in that camp, but they just back them. And again, I can't think of any other reason than that it's like projection of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, they often say it. This could be me. This could be you. Whether it's this case, another case. I know there was one creator in the Richard Allen case was going, we could all be Ricky.
And there's times where they'll say, well, I or this happened in my life. So if that could happen to me, why can't? And so you're right. So they're actually comparing themselves in some similar way. And I don't know, I guess by people then subscribing and liking and commenting, that just fuels it to keep going. It's a shame.
So do you think that Bryan Kohberger would want to be in general population if he had a choice and
I
he
don't
felt
know. That's a
safe?
good question. I don't think that I know enough to say. I think that as long as he felt that he had some control, that would be more important. But that is a good question because, again, I think either way, he would figure it out. Like, again, he's an intellectual. So it's almost like 2 + 2 = 4. So he'll figure out a way to make it out either way. But I could see how he could survive in either environment. I don't think he's making friends with anybody in Gen Pop. But I also don't know that the other people in Gen Pop are trying to be friends with him. So, or anybody else for that matter, because you don't know who to trust. I'm sure after a while, if you're going to be there your whole life, there's somebody you might trust. But that's also very rare. People have to remember that these aren't that if you, and again, I'm not talking about a small crime. I'm talking about other murderers and stuff like that. So if he's put in that same, with like-minded people, it might not be the way that some people might be thinking that it could be if they're putting themselves in the situation.
I just saw this. I agree. That's who they are. That's hilarious. Man. So do you think we'll hear him speak? Do you think he'll say that he's guilty, or do you think he'll leave that to his lawyer?
He has to. If he doesn't have to, I don't think he would. But I would hope that he would have to, because no, but he didn't have to when he stood silent, right? He stood silent. I don't know if he's going to have to by law, but I think he should have to.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't the judge have to say to him, like, Mr. Kohberger, isn't this your, did they tell you that you didn't have to do this? Like, my friend was murdered when we were 29, and we went through 2 trials. There were 4 people that eventually get convicted, but there was a hung jury the first time, which was horrifying. So the judge had to go through and like ask them questions like, did your lawyers or did anybody promise you anything? So they go through this whole thing. So I would hope that the lawyer can answer that stuff for him and that he would have to, but I guess we're going to see tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how this portrays, what do you think about the fact that they tell the family, hey, we're going to accept a plea deal. And they tell you on Sunday night, and
via letter.
Via letter. And then it's not until today that they find out that there's a hearing on Wednesday, or yesterday that there's a hearing on Wednesday, given how, no time to plan to get out there.
Nope. You have to take off of work. There's grandkids involved. Like, there's just so many things that they would have to prepare for. So I feel like this is just re-victimizing the families.
I agree. I think there should have been a little bit more time. To me, that tells me
the trial wasn't tomorrow, right? They could have waited another 2 weeks and like told the family, like, we're sorry, this is what's going to happen, but give them a little bit of time to digest it.
I agree 100%. And then also, kind of give them the peace of mind of what it is they're either going to present, or that Bryan Kohberger is going to be confessing or saying everything that he needs to say. Something to do it this way tells me that this screams out that they weren't offering him a plea deal because the family didn't want one, but that they were hoping that they would have gotten one. And as soon as they got the offer from the defense that they wanted one, they hopped on it real quick before he turned it away.
And I'm also assuming that this isn't the first time that Ann and the prosecutor have worked together. And if he's taken, like Jennifer said, I only found 3 murders that he's ever prosecuted. So I'm sure that there's a lot of like low-level drug offenses and stuff that they've already worked with each other over the years. This is the end of his career. So maybe they've worked together. Like, maybe he knew that there was a huge possibility that she was going to come in at the end and ask for a plea deal, because they probably know each other's strategies to some degree.
I mean, maybe. I think that Ann Taylor probably had that in her back pocket, knowing that was something that he was doing.
So don't you think she would have done that before, though? Like, even if it wasn't to get the death penalty off, but like to get somebody out of something bigger? Like, I feel like this would have been, or that she knows that he has taken pleas in so many of his cases that this was even a possibility.
Well, I think at the time that the only thing that they could have offered was taking the death penalty off. And I think they were trying to do a lot of things to get the death penalty taken off. And so they were going to wait and see if they can get the death penalty taken off, whether it be because of his autism, allegedly, or any of these other factors that they are indicating that there should be reasons for it to not be there. That way they could go in and take the gamble, right? Because they're not, the risk isn't his life and a firing squad. And so I think that once that got dropped and the continuance got dropped and now it's time, I think they decided to do what they needed to do.
I
I
hate
am
that they
kind of
didn't
shocked
do
that it
this.
came in now, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm so mad that they didn't do this 6 months in.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a lot of things that were going on then still, right? There was, evidence, and they thought that they still had, supposedly thought they still had the call detail records that they were supposed to get. There was a lot of things that.
But to think that he
were
was
there.
just going to fold at the end, it's like, I don't know. It's like almost like he's not just like collapsing. He's like, it's like
Taking the coward way out.
yeah, and he's in charge of it. Like he's doing it. So it's like on his terms, which is just annoying.
Do you think that there could be things that are brought up in trial that could be embarrassing to him?
I think that there are things, I don't know. So I'm sure there are things that could be embarrassing, but I would think if anything, just the fact that the prosecution's going to put on this whole case that he can't just jump in and be like, nah, that didn't happen. Or like, nah, and stop them. Like that didn't happen. Like, so the fact that he can't take control in that sense, I think played a role in this as well. But I also think it's like you said, they tried everything else first. And then they probably were like, what do we have to lose? Let's make them an offer and see if they'll take it. And they took it.
Yeah.
There was no negotiation, I don't think. Like, that doesn't even sound like there's a negotiation. What else would you ask for other than we'll play if you give us they're not going to say, oh, he's going to tell us everything and give us that's going to be for the prosecutor to be like, wait a minute. He's going to have to do some things first.
All right.
And that would be maddening if they didn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Would you, if you were in charge and Bryan Kohberger said that he would tell you everything and give you the location of the knife, if you allow him to be, to serve his sentence in a Pennsylvania prison, would you do it?
This is the thing. So I would think that I would want to, as like a human being, to go see where the knife is and stuff. However, I would assume that as law enforcement, I'm sure there's other people that have said things too. And who knows, like, are you going to use all this manpower to go search for a knife, not knowing if it's there? But I guess if there was something that you could tie it to, like if you give us this, we give you that. That's why I think like, why are they giving in like this? Like they should have, like, I feel like this is their opportunity to say, if you don't want the firing squad, you have to give us where the knife is, and until we find it, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it was in the cards. They could have done it. And if they don't do that, that's just mind blowing.
Yeah. To me, it is too. And, Jennifer made an excellent point saying that the reason why the sentencing phase aspect of this, even though it's in the documents and part of the plea, is why it's delayed or at least separated by a certain amount of time is because there should be a lot of conversations going on there. What did you do? How did you do it? Have you done this before? Those type of things.
I just hope he talks.
Do you think we'll find out if he does talk, do you think we'll find out something we don't know? Maybe prior to the crimes?
I think so, yes. Or even not, maybe something that we might have speculated about but didn't know. I very much think, especially a lot of the things that you and I have speculated, I might just be biased, but I feel like we've speculated things that we're going to find out in one way or another were true.
Yeah.
I think we're smarter than him, Daniel.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope to be part of the 10% of the people that are. I found that to be crazy only, but I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a difference between, I don't know.
Read smarts and book smarts.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I would assume that if your IQ is high, that
no,
you would probably be on the street smart.
My nickname is straight A stupid. I literally, like a couple weeks ago, I accidentally, I don't know how, but I like charged Wawa soup like 19 times. Like it was like $100 and something worth of soup. So like I could do something so stupid like that and graduate with highest honors. It happens.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I have not done that, but I've done other stupid things. I have my fair share.
My poor husband.
Sinbad comes in with $5 saying, Kohberger won't stay quiet in prison. He'll likely try to cooperate with the FBI and weigh in on murder cases like Kemper and Bundy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because then he could be like the smart one in the room. They're coming to him. They want to know my opinion. Like, I'm smarter than everybody. I was going to be a criminologist. And I am the person that's done this before. So come to me type thing. So I absolutely see that happening. And maybe he can bargain for things like, I want my vegan food.
Yeah. Yeah. So this will be interesting. It'll be interesting how it goes down. I'm going to be going live tomorrow, guys. Dr. Vona, you're welcome to join me tomorrow.
You'll see me, I think.
I'll be live for the hearing, and I'm hoping we get to hear what the case is. I'm expecting to hear a few things. I'm expecting to hear that. Let's see. I'm expecting to find out that he did follow them online. I'm expecting to find out that he did some things with his phone and his laptop, that there's going to be some data missing, time frame missing from there. I'm expecting to find out that there was cleaning agents in his car. I'm expecting that we find almost the entire kill kit purchases and when they purchased and how he purchased those items. Do
you think we're going to find that out from the prosecution or from him?
Prosecution.
Me too.
Yeah, I think we're going to find all these things out from the prosecution. I think we're going to find out that, how many times he was at that house, how close he was at that house, what he may have been doing with his phone during those times. And I think we're going to find out what a lot of information of what he did afterwards. Dateline kind of broke down a little bit. He called his parents. He did this, but I think we're going to find out even more of some of the
things. Literally was going to say, do you think Dateline has like a stack of information that they just didn't reveal that they know of, that they're going to come out with the part 3?
Oh, I believe so. I think that we're
and
probably
4 and 5.
Well, there's going to be a 4-part on the Amazon Prime. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover everything. We're not going to go away, right? So here, what we're going to do is we're going to
and we're multifaceted. There's other cases too that we're eventually, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And so, but when it comes to this case, I fully intend on filing a Freedom of Information Act on as much information as I possibly can.
I'll help you with it.
Thank you. I want to get one for the first one I want to do is the traffic stop.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I want to see what's in that car. And then
I want to see how he interacts.
Exactly. Now, things I won't share, guys. I've talked about things before. Like, for instance, I've seen items that were at the crime scene at a certain point. And I've talked about those items. I'm not going to show those items regardless of anything. I promise I never would. And so those things are not going to be shown. But once this plea is done, maybe I can talk a little bit more about some of the other things that I know, like why he got kicked out of his high school class, why he, what happened at, I think it's in Northampton with a certain phone app and things of that nature. So I got to go through all my information to kind of put it together. Cause to be honest with you guys, it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff that I've had on Bryan Kohberger. A lot of it, you guys know, it's all public and stuff like that, pictures and videos, but all that information gets kind of mixed up with the stuff that I haven't shared. And so, I got to go through all that and see what's valid, what's not, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I would assume that the things that you didn't share are things that like the victims' families entrust in you. So I would hope that other people would see that if you wouldn't share things that they've told you, that means that you won't next time either, or the time after that with another family. So I think if anything, it just shows your integrity.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's what I try.
And don't ever give into that, because I always tell people what people will do with you, they'll do to you.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%. And yes, tomorrow we'll be going live probably around about 11:30 my time, Central Time. 11:30 Central Time, 12:30 on the East Coast. That's 10:30 in Mountain Time. And so I'll go
if
about.
You remember, shoot me a link in case I can get up there.
Sounds good. Good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. We have 2,974 people in here right now. I want to say thank you. Please like, subscribe, check out the other channels.
And check out the Minds Behind True Crime with Dr. Vona.
Yes, Minds Behind True Crime, Dr. Vona. It's in the description. And also don't forget to go check out Breaking the Case
Yes,
with Jennifer
she's
Coffindaffer.
awesome.
Yes, we're going to do this again. You guys have a great
sure.
night.
I'll see you
And
guys. Thank you.
thank you. Until next time,
I'll
guys.
see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.